Got it. Hang on. Can you get that?
Don't let go, got it. Just tell us about it.
Back in the Cornbrook. We're over in Moss Side, the best part of Moss Side. We're really stupid, horrible. Let's just see how far we can go now. Hello, my name is Martin and welcome back to another video. Cornbrook Part 3, and we're here in Hulme. In fact, Part 3 concentrates on Hulme and Moss Side area. You may recognise this bridge. Some of you may, some of you may not. That's up to you. Cornbrook Part 3, and what I'm going to do is going to show you on a map the way the Cornbrook runs around the south side of the city of Manchester. It's one of Manchester's lost rivers. Now, there's a few of these that we've talked about, the Tabe, Shooter's Brook, that kind of thing. Those ones you can't get into because they're very small, and you literally have to just lift the manhole and have a look because they're almost like small sewers. The Cornbrook is unique because it's the only one of Manchester's lost rivers, brooks, that you can actually get into the culvert and traverse from end to end. Right, so here we are, Moss Side. Nice old church here. You've got to remember, in the times that we're talking about when the Cornbrook ran open, all this was very rural. And I'm going to give you an example of how rural it was in a bit, in a little story I've got to tell you. Let me cut to a map and show you that route of the Cornbrook. There you go, that is the route of the Cornbrook, Manchester's lost river. And we say that because most of that route there that you can see almost in its entirety is underground. Starts over in the east of Manchester and it heads in a westward direction and empties into the River Irwell / Manchester Ship Canal. Now, I know that's just a crude blue line drawn on a map, but it definitely gives you the idea of where the Cornbrook runs, and it's an approximate route. That don't pin me down to like a millimetre, but that is basically the way the Cornbrook runs. In this video, Cornbrook 3, we're going to cover the area there between the two arrows, and we start around about the Hulme Moss Side border, and we head over towards Ardwick. Now we're going to drop it around about just before Ardwick because it goes into a concrete box and it's just incredibly boring. So what we're going to do in Cornbrook 4 is pick it up around about the word Ardwick and move forward. But back to Cornbrook 3, there's the route between the arrows, and we start off in, unfortunately, a boring concrete box, but it just gives the impression of how much the Cornbrook has been changed and shoehorned and moved into things and slightly rerouted. But there is some good architecture to come. Oh, that's horrendous. James is still back up there. So as soon as we get in, what is it, 4 foot?
Right, so we're underneath the Hulme shopping complex now.
Right.
Cornbrook was shoehorned into, dare I say, this bastard box.
It's a bastard box.
And I know you say it's my baby, but honestly it's my bastard baby, is this thing.
Oh.
Anyway.
So, yeah, we've just dropped in Moss Side.
Horrendous.
Struggling, really stooping, horrible. I'll show you James and Marcus in a minute. I'm sweating like a transit van on an MOT ramp again. I'll tell you, it was a good job without the hard at because I've crashed my head a few times.
Stretch your back again.
Well, you get
Here goes.
Hit stop.
Yeah, don't lock it.
Right, I'll get out so you can get in.
Come on, pig.
Come on, pig.
Switch bags. Stretch your back in.
So, as we're starting this video in Moss Side, we can't not mention one of two very famous people that are going to crop up along this current section of the journey along the Cornbrook River, or brook, because it's not really a river. But anyway, we're here in Moss Side, and you'll see here the Cornbrook is running kind of this way, if you like. It's sort of running this way towards Princess Road here. And I often wonder if Moss Lane West here has got its origins in a path that may have gone alongside of the Cornbrook when it used to run open many years ago, and maybe even before that, back in medieval times. This may have been a path running alongside the small brook. Anyway, that's where the Cornbrook is running approximately. This is Moss Side, and we are told that a very famous daughter of Manchester, Emmeline Pankhurst, was born here in Moss Side. Now, one of the sources gives us the actual street where she was born, and it was called Sloane Street. Now, as you would imagine, Emmeline Pankhurst, who was called born as Emmeline Goulden, was born on Sloane Street, and it's long since gone. Sloane Street has long since gone. But as always, we can turn back the clock, and if we turn back the clock, we'll go back to the earlier maps, and I want you to take a look at Sedgeborough Road there, Sedgeborough Road, because it's got its origins, or the route is in an older street. Let's turn back the clock. There you go, Sloane Street, and that is where Emmeline Pankhurst was born, somewhere along that street. I did try and look up what number to get an idea, but she was born there on Sloane Street. Now, she was born in July 1858, and I would imagine that by the time she was a little girl running around and playing out and stuff, you know, in the early 1860s, that the Cornbrook was long since gone. And as we can see up here, it's not there, it's now underground and buried. So although Emmeline Pankhurst was born on this street within a stone's throw of the Cornbrook, she possibly never saw it, unfortunately. But she is a vital link in our story of the Cornbrook River that runs this way, not far from Sloane Street, where Emmeline Pankhurst, née Goulden, was born back in July of 1858. Okay, so just ahead we're going underneath Princess Road, main artery of Manchester. If you go shopping at Asda in Hulme, you're not a million miles away from the Cornbrook and the section that we're at now. Okay, so this is Radnor Street in Hulme. Probably radically different to how it used to look. I'll probably find some old photos and try and show you Radnor Street in Hulme. Just for your bearings, Asda is over to that way there, and that road there, that busy road, is Princess Road. We're in a concrete box now in the Cornbrook, and obviously James is struggling away and sweating. We're all sweating and we're all stooping down. That concrete box took the Cornbrook slightly off its natural route. The Cornbrook used to run underneath Radnor Street, but sometime when they redeveloped Hulme, probably 90s, early 2000s, they've shifted the Cornbrook and put it in a concrete box. So, you know, that's what they do. They play about with the course of these little water courses. So yeah, not always following its exact route, and has been toyed about with, as we've found out in the past on other waterways around Manchester. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go across there. That brewery there is the Heineken Brewery. If you know Manchester, this side of Manchester on Princess Road, you'll know the Heineken Brewery. Cornbrook's going to go right underneath there. Right, so these two arches strengthen the Cornbrook as it goes under Princess Parkway. You know, like I said, one of the main roads out of Manchester. Probably showing you on a map and everything. Well, that's what these are for. So very nice, keep it all picturesque. I'm quite impressed the fact that we're leaving a bit of concrete and going into some brick now. You'll see down here some nice brick. Well, that was horrendous, weren't it, James?
Horrendous.
James is moaning about everything. There's the weight of the bag and everything, but yeah, what a brewing a bit as well. Oh, yes. It's what we like. Look at that bit of steel up there. What that's all about. A windowsill there. More steel. Look at that. That's, I think, a bit of joining section. Yeah, look at that. It is reinforcement, that, isn't it?
Put your bag on your front, it's easier.
Yeah. Well, I don't think anything's easier at the minute. What have you seen?
Did you see the rat?
No.
There were a rat went down that way.
Yeah. Must have stopped up at the shop.
Right, never again. Never, ever, 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 ever. Amen.
And of course, not forgetting James.
James.
having a good time?
Yeah, well fun.
Just going to introduce you to the team. We've got Nick. Hello, Nick. James, sweating like a beast, not in the mood, doesn't want to say hello to you.
Hello.
We've got Marcus, Darky Pants from Sheffield, and of course we've got Roy. This is Roy's baby. He's
Never
leading
again.
the way. Right, so for your reference, the Heineken Brewery's there. That road there, we see the cars, is Moss Lane East. All right, Moss Lane East. And you'll notice here we've got some grassland here. The sun's shining, but we've got some grassland here just on Princess Road. Now, let me walk on this grassland because it brings back memories. Oh shit. Now, just when I started YouTube, I was looking for interesting stories to do around Manchester. And this was I started in 2016, but I started doing the Manchester stuff in around about 2017. And here on this grassland that you probably drive past that you won't think nothing of, there used to be a club. And the club was called the Reno Club. And remarkably, a lady, a middle-aged lady that used to come to the club in the 80s, and I think in the 70s, decided that the club, parts of the club were still here on the underground, and they excavated it. She got a group of friends together, she got permission, and they excavated this area and dug up parts of the old Reno Club. Obviously it was a club in an older building. The lady was called Linda Brogan, and it must have took a fair amount of determination for her to get friends along, get permission, and actually dig here at the side of the Princess Road. But she did it, and they uncovered all sorts of stuff. They had the site for a few days, and I think there was an exhibition in the end down at Whitworth Art Gallery of the stuff they'd found and the photos and all the rest of it. And all the people that used to come to the club came down and helped her, so it was quite a remarkable thing, and I'm proud that I did that video because it's quite different, a different style of video that to what I normally do. But anyway, just here by the brewery, Moss Lane East, the Reno Club used to be here, and I think upstairs was another club. I think like a Caribbean club upstairs, and down below was the Reno Club. But yeah, anyway, I had to mention that while we're here. But for your reference, the Cornbrook is now going underneath the brewery there, and that arch bit where it's supported goes on for quite a way. And I think, did we get respite in the arch?
We got respite at the end of it.
So
briefly.
Even in the arch we're still sort of struggling away a bit. Anyway, let's crack on, go back down below ground and crack on with this journey of the Cornbrook. Now we're about to go towards Denmark Road.
Yeah, and under the brewery.
And underneath the brewery, the big, is it Heineken? Big Heineken brewery, which we'll no doubt show you. So that goes underneath the Heineken brewery going that way. It looks a little bit like you can almost stand up in it. So yeah, can we pop up and get a Heineken? Right, so we're finally out of those brick arches and we're now on Denmark Road. And Denmark Road used to run through the brewery. Brewery used to be a lot smaller than what it is now. It's called the Albert Brewery. It was named after Queen Victoria's husband. 1875 it started brewing beer on this site. Now obviously it's a massive complex and it's took over part of Denmark Road. Right, I'm sorry about this, but I just need to take you back along the journey. Remember, we're here now. We've talked about all this. I just need to take you back to the other side of Princess Road. When we started doing Cornbrook 3, me and Roy had the discussion and thought that there wasn't going to be much to it, and it might be just a filler episode. It turns out there's a hell of a lot to this. And I don't want to miss anything out or miss any interesting information for you. So if you permit me, I'm just going to go back over here. And I want to show you something. Let's look at the old map. We're going to go right back. Like I say, again, this is an 1840s map. Take a look at this here. This is where it says Mayfield. And we're on the other side, obviously, of Princess Road now, which doesn't exist. This is a farm. And interestingly, you can see the Cornbrook disappears, so I wonder if it's culverted here. But this farm is called Mayfield, and in his book, The Lost Rivers of Manchester, Jeff Ashworth writes this about Mayfield Farm. Near the Cornbrook stood an old farm, actually in Hulme, called Mayfield, which was visited by the plague in 1645. And the victims were buried not in the churchyard but in the nearby fields. Wow, so somewhere in these fields are the victims of the plague. Now, the family that lived there were called the Beswickses. Yes, the Beswickses, it's written, but Beswickses, I imagine it's pronounced. So somewhere in the farm lands here is buried some bodies, and if you look at how it is now, it's completely obviously built up. So it makes you wonder around the leisure centre here and around Moss Lane East if one of those bodies is still buried in that area. Very, very interesting to me, this, and it's, you know, looking at the Cornbrook Open, it's fantastic. Anyway, Jeff goes on to write this. I'm going to show you a piece from the book now, because this is interesting as well. A little further south of this spot was the notorious area called 20 Pits, a water-filled collection of old marl pits, which was the haunt of wild geese, ducks and schoolboy fishermen. 4 schoolboys drowned here in about 1870, and the pits were filled in soon after. The largest of the pits was called the Soldiers' Pit, or Swaddy's Pit. Legend had it that the soldiers from Hulme Barracks, which we showed in the Cornbrook 2, Hulme Barracks used to swim in it, and once one drowned, his ghost haunting the place. So Jeff talks about the marl pits just south of Mayfield Farm. Now marl pits, I had to look it up, were areas of like clay that was very rich in nutrients, and they used to dig out the clay and go and spread it on the land to fertilise the land elsewhere. But he said south of Mayfield, so if you look here, I think this is it. It has to be, doesn't it? Just south of Mayfield. And this is where the schoolboy fishermen used to come, and the soldiers from the barracks used to swim, and where one of them possibly drowned. So absolutely incredible, isn't it? We can actually see this on a map. Now, forgive me if you will, if we just move away from the marl pits and Mayfield Farm and we go upstream, you'll see here we've got Coffin Bridge. And it looks, if we look at this back in the day, it looks quite rural, doesn't it? There's farms and cottages everywhere. So, Coffin Bridge, what was that like? Well, let me show you a sketch from 1827. There you go, very beautiful, isn't it? Very idyllic. This sketch is called Walker Farm, stood by Coffin Bridge close to the boundary of Greenheys and Moss Side. Looks brilliant, and I think it was around about 1827 then that sketch was done. So the Cornbrook was about to become quite polluted as the Industrial Revolution expanded the centre of Manchester. But as we see it there, that's how lovely it probably was at one time, when it was the Brook of Cranes, when cranes were flying about. But anyway, let's move on. We're joined in a moment by another brook, another sort of one of Manchester's lost waterways. It's called the Rush Brook. So again, let's turn back to the old maps and we'll go and see how it used to be. There's the Rusholme Brook, and it joins the Cornbrook here, just on the corner here. Alright, just where we were. The Cornbrook actually disappears again, and it doesn't reappear until further up here in this area here, but we're going to come to that area in a bit. So there you go, that's where they join together, Rusholme Brook and Cornbrook, or the Rush Brook. So let's go and take a look at what that is like now underground. Okay, so the Rush Brook, I'm going to read you a piece from Jeff's book, Geoffrey Ashworth's book, The Lost Rivers of Manchester, that he wrote back in 87, 88. The Rush Brook, as you see, sometimes confusingly called the Rusholme Brook, was an ancient feature which separated the old townships of Moss Side and Chorlton upon Medlock. The low-lying meadow in the Rush stream, it may have been given the Rush Home as its name. So there you go, the Rush Brook. Another one of Manchester's lost rivers, buried, I think, for its entirety.
Yeah.
Almost its entirety along its route, and then comes out in this little tiny brick culvert into the Cornbrook, another one of the lost rivers. Looks small and stupid, and you've volunteered to go and take a look a bit down there, haven't you? Right. I'll throw a stick down there. Fetch. Right. Watch your head. Got my helmet.
Nah. Come on, you big lanky gimp. Hurry on, scoop. Right, you only need to go to the brick bit and just that next part, don't you?
Right, okay.
I'm not going to tie your hair up and put some gloves on for the hard out. No. You're filming that.
Lean on the camera.
Yeah. No. Oh, it's getting silty. Yeah. Shit.
Oh,
Yeah, it's got mega silty there.
Yeah, come out.
You take that.
Lift it up. Tuck it to me. Got it. Right, Park is struggling there because it's got mega silty. Did you get stuck?
Yeah.
Oh no, we've got some wipes in the thingy.
My torch is alright, so we're alright.
So it's alright, is it? Good, good. Right, come out of there, you stupid person. What are you doing? Get out of there.
Where's your gloves?
Silly bugger. I've got some wipes in the thingy. What we've just seen is the Rush Brook joining the Cornbrook, roughly about there in that junction there. That is Greenheys Road. Now that's going to introduce a whole new story to the video, but just about there is where we are. Like I say, that's the Rush Brook. Its source is up near Bellevue, a lake at Bellevue. An interesting thing about the Rush Brook, it used to be, it's got an alternative name as quite a these little waterways do. It used to be called the Malkin Brook, but it's not, you won't hear that nowadays. That's from Jeff's book. Jeff obviously did a lot of research and found out that it used to be called the Malkin Brook. Okay, so two curious pictures of the Rush Brook. The first one is Roy's picture, and it's from quite a few years ago, about 10 years ago, and it shows this area of the Cornbrook, but you'll notice there's not much flow. Now, there was something happened further upstream, and I can explain that to you in Cornbrook 4. But flicking to this picture, this is from 1966, and you can see this is again the same area. This is the Rush Brook meeting the Cornbrook in that section again, and I can't quite work out what's going on here, whether they're about to make a cutting into the wall to let the Rush Brook join, or whether they cut it off at one point and then decided later they would make a hole in the wall, because there's not much flow, if any flow at all, in the Rush Brook. Maybe it's one of these that only flows in times of heavy rain, but can't quite make out what's going on there. But that is the Rush Brook entering into the Cornbrook, or would enter the Cornbrook, but it's kind of like been walled off. So we're going towards Greenheys Lake. We're actually going to end up around University Land, if that makes any sense to you. This is an older section, obviously, as you can see, all really rusted away and everything. And this is how it all used to look until they renewed this bit here. There you go. And that's the new concrete section. What do you think of that?
It's nicer for us, but like safety-wise, that's better.
Ooh, safety! Ooh. Safety first! Safety first! Okay, so again, we've seen this before. We've got stone here, dress stone. It looks really old.
It ran open to here, then shut for your cold.
And then obviously, possibly, it was only as high as the stone, and then was built upon when they buried the Cornbrook. And we see within mason's marks here. I can't see any dry stone. Looks it, doesn't it?
This is very, very knackered. This is going to be next on the list. See the wood?
Yeah.
Oh, they've showed it up wood.
Oh, yeah.
See that, Nick?
Oh, what is it?
Nick, see the wood where they showed it up the brick? Jesus, collapsing. Look at that. Since we came last. Show that now. Wow.
Is that where they filled it in there?
Nick, look at it.
Yeah.
Go down.
That's it.
Last come.
Oh, yeah.
Have they filled it in with this black stuff? I know, it's like tarmac, innit? I don't know.
Looks like tarmac, that
Tarmac comes asphalt. Asphalt, maybe.
It's all bowed in, guys. Look at it now, look at that roll there.
Let's get out of this section.
Show this, you go up front to show this. This is cool. Wow, all the wood's rotten.
This is not look healthy at all, does it?
Nope. Yeah, I think making a racket is something like that.
We're going to have to do something out there eventually.
So this is this
Oh God, look at that.
Is that wood?
It's collapsed.
It's the wood, yeah.
Don't mess with it.
The moral of the story is don't make your bridges out of wood.
Yeah, try and find some water.
Must under a lawn here.
Oh my God, look at it bowing there, the concrete. It's all cut, ready to go. So this concrete bit here is where they sort of rejigged the Cornbrook as it emerges from the brewery. So it was always concrete as far as I recall it. However, a number of years ago there was a big collapse on this corner of Denmark Road and where it emerges from the brewery. The road was shut for about a year or so while they did it all. And as we head up here, you'll see from the clip, you'll start to see, even though it's concrete, you'll see the older girders where it's a bit more rusted and dilapidated. I imagine the amount of traffic and the vehicles coming under and around the brewery have caused that over time. And you'll see that just a little bit further up here.
So you can see, even though it's box section here, you can see it's had many repairs, probably due to heavy traffic at the brewery, like Roy says. And we found this picture, which is Cornbrook under repair at Denmark Road, and it's probably from the 60s, and it's that very work. This is where we are now, and that's that work taking place.
That's a nice little man.
The Victorians had done that, would have been perfectly sealed, if in doubt, in the modern age, but they're expanding farming from being through.
Actually, dragging on the salad side, shop in that.
Show the people.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I think he swam the Cornbrook.
I know, well, he's giving me like a bag what weighs like 10 tonne.
Right, well, you've done well, or you've messed my bag up.
Well,
you insisted on having a brew, but you've messed my bag up completely. So, do you want a brew?
yeah, are you making it this time?
Brew.
Yeah.
No,
paying for it?
Parker can make it.
Like, yeah.
You're making it. Where is it? We've got a nice cake. It's a cinnamon bun type thing.
Oh, nice. It's
We're gonna-
homemade.
We're going to eat down here where there's rats, wild disease,
Did you make that cake yourself?
abscesses down here, all sorts of things.
Have you got milk?
Yeah.
Have you got a spoon?
Oh, got a spoon. Right, you know something? There's people down there, been down there with chlamydia. You're going to get all that in your face. In fact, oh, it is chlamydia.
Do you want a leg?
Yeah, alright then.
We've got some sort of cinnamon bun type thing, and it's just near all that there, where the rats have been. So I think you tear and share. So I think we've all got a bit of a abscess on our fingers, so we're going to tear now and share.
Got Lyme disease, kid.
Okay, so I want you to plot that arch there, and the way the concrete butts up to it, because I want to tell you something, a little about the history of this section here. Now, when I say history, I'm not going to start talking about kings and queens. I'm just talking about the history of this section, what actually happened. Okay, so this is the junction of Greenheys Lane and Boundary Road, and things get interesting in this area now. For a start, there was a big collapse here in the Cornbrook, which I'm going to show you. There you go, that must have caused a bit of a... That must have been the talk of the town back in 1921. Must have caused quite a calamity. Imagine that outside your front door. Now, as we sometimes question the quality of the culverting and the brickwork, because there's been quite a few collapses, and if you look at that 1921, the heaviest traffic would have possibly been, there might have been traction engines around, maybe, that may have caused that, but there wouldn't have been massively heavy motor traffic, we don't think. So, you know, you can probably question sometimes that some of this culverting was done a little bit piecemeal, maybe. I don't know. It's just food for thought, isn't it? But this picture here that Roy took, again, on his epic journey that he did in one night, where he did the Cornbrook in one go, we think this is the repair on Greenheys Lane, butting up to the next section that didn't collapse. We think he knows where he took it, and we reckon this was the repair. Anyway, cracking on. Okay, so you can see the low brick stupid bit, and the floor's uneven on this one, so I think everything that they demolished in the 60s and 70s is down here. They just shoved it in here. Honestly, I think that's what they did.
Yeah, but then there's that. Yeah. Remember where they strengthened it further up there?
Seating area.
Seating area.
We've got one there, look.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, seat.
A small
Banquet for
lounge.
5. And here's talking of banquets.
Talking of all you can eat. So as you've watched parts 1, 2 and 3, you get to watch part 4 and 5. This one did it all on his own just for the sheer bloody helliness of you.
Never again, eh?
Yeah.
Here we are again.
But it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And you was a younger man. James? You alright?
You alright?
Culverted piecemeal, yeah? Here he is.
Here he is.
Come on, Sluggy.
This backpack is the bane of my life.
Why has he always got excuses? Hey?
You wanted cakes and a brew? There you go, more evidence of the way this culvert changes along the way, and the way there was probably repairs and bits of new section butted up to old section, and it looks a bit rough, but interesting to see there the courses of brick, three or four bricks thick there. Now we're still under Greenheys Lane here, and it's now that I need to introduce our second famous character to you, who has links to the Cornbrook, probably stronger links than Emmeline Pankhurst earlier. Right, so when you follow these little waterways, it's amazing the stories that come out of it, and some of the characters that you end up discovering have links in this area. This area is called Greenheys, and we're just here now on Bronte Street at the end of Burlington Street. You can look it up on the maps. It used to be so rural. So rural, in fact, that a rich family decided to build a house here. You may or may not have heard of a writer called Thomas De Quincey. He wrote a book called Confessions of an English Opium Eater. Not the sort of reading I would normally do, but fascinating. So, like I say, this was Greenheys. Thomas De Quincey, he lived a very, shall we just say, coloured life. He was very, he sort of bounced from between sort of opulence and being a pauper. He lived this very sort of like nomadic lifestyle where he just wandered the country, meeting people and getting to know different people. And because he was very clever, he was extremely clever, he kind of like, and he was middle class, he was kind of like admired. So whenever he came across middle class people, he could entertain, and he was sort of like, he was taken in as a guest and treated well. And then the next minute he was back to being a pauper. But anyway, you'd have to read the book to get his full story. But his roots are here in Greenheys, when it used to be an extremely rural area. Follow me this way. So I've already said where we are. This is Bronte Street. Eyre Street is just over there, and we're at the end of Burlington Street. And Thomas De Quincey's father used to sell linen on Market Street Lane in the centre of Manchester, that we know now as Market Street, where all the shops are. But it was called Market Street Lane then. He decided, his father, that he would give up the shop and start to trade in linen. Of course, it was Manchester, and you know, the cotton boom was about to start. And so his father became a merchant. And it was a good step, because once his father became a merchant, the money started to roll in, really roll in. Now, we need to mention De Quincey's mother here, because it's very important. She was a very austere, delusions of grandeur, hyacinth bouquet type character, and obviously she loved the idea that they were making money, and they decided when the money was rolling in, they were going to build a house, and they bought property down here in rural Moss Side. Can you believe? You wouldn't think it now, would you? So they picked the land here down in Moss Side, and they bought the land and they had the house built, and Mother wore the trousers in the family, quite, like I say, an austere, emotionally cold woman. And all about, you know, projecting and how the family looked and the family reputation and everything. Anyway, the house she decided to call Greenhay. And if you know this area in Manchester, it's called Greenheys. So you've got this big posh house in this lovely rural area that eventually gave its name to this area of sort of Hulme and Moss Side, Greenheys. It's just that it was called Greenhay, H-A-Y, now it's called Greenheys, H-E-Y-S. And that's why this area is called Greenheys. Now, in his book, De Quincey talks about how idyllic it was and how lovely it was. It was quite a big family they had, and how wonderful it was living in this area. And they had a big garden, and at the bottom of the garden was a stream that ran open, and a little bridge they had to cross to get off the land. And of course, that stream, that little river, was the Cornbrook. So how do I know that this is the right place? Well, there's a little documentary about a gentleman that wrote a book about De Quincey, and he talks about this area and where the house was situated, and that's why I know it was here. And obviously it makes sense because we're in Greenheys as well. Now, if you remember, I was telling you I was on Bronte Street, Eyre Street here, Boundary Lane, Greenheys Lane, and you've got Coupland Street here. Alright, so I was basically stood on here talking to you, Bronte Street and Eyre Street. So, Greenheys, let's go back in time. And there you go, Greenheys Hall, and that is the childhood home of Thomas De Quincey. Obviously a beautiful house, you can just see it by the map, can't you, in its own grounds. And the Cornbrook is running down this way here. I'm going to switch to another map which will illustrate the Cornbrook better for you. Obviously not as much detail on the old house, but the Cornbrook is there, and if we pull out, there's Greenheys house and the Cornbrook is here. It runs this way. I'm going to flick to another picture now to show you an even better illustration of the way the Cornbrook ran past Greenheys. There you go, that's probably a better illustration. And you can see there the Cornbrook flowing to the right hand side of Greenheys house, and then a little bridge at the bottom of the garden. Now, in his autobiography, Thomas De Quincey describes a day that stays with him and was very vivid in his memory, and it was the day that his brother William was sent off to boarding school, so that probably helped his memories. And there was a wild dog in the area running round, and everyone was frightened of it. And he describes the way the wild dog come running down towards the edge of the stream and was barking at them when they stood in the garden horrified, and the dog was barking at them. And obviously at some point in our little journey today we've walked past that point where that wild dog was barking at Thomas De Quincey and his brother William. I just thought it was a nice little story. And of course here it is, this is a sketch of Greenheys, and you can see how idyllic and beautiful it was. And this place was, these big houses that were in Moss Side, this one in particular, Greenheys, was pulled down around about the 1860s. Right, so we've got a curve here now. We're going to the left. Where are we headed now?
Well, we come out, goes under Coupland Street briefly if you look at the old maps.
That's university land, isn't it?
Well, towards there, what's the Trinity Complex, and it curves right under Boundary Lane, heads up Boundary Lane, and then over towards, as you say, the Trinity Complex where the college and that is.
Right. So steep on.
Yeah.
So walking a lot of brick here and everything. No big deep as well. Manhole there. Not very deep. Not very deep there. Bloody hell.
You can put the back.
Right, so De Quincey's house was just there, where you see that building there, that red brick building, and we're just coming from where Thomas De Quincey lived as a child, underneath Boundary Lane, and then it runs underneath here, just crosses Coupland Street, and it now runs under here, under what they call Trinity Complex, and we're now heading into University Land in Manchester. So we're going that way now, and we're heading over towards now, the direction we're going in is towards Ardwick. Very old section now, as you can see, this bit now. Are we getting towards the end? I know you don't like telling us we're near the end.
We're not far now, yeah, right, we're not far.
Yeah. It's one of them, like, you don't like waiting to get a false sense of security. Anyway, we're getting close to the bit where the photo was taken for the cover of the book, The Lost Rivers of Manchester. And you might, if you don't know that book, you'll start to notice the brickwork here now. Oh, we're not far then. It is brilliant, isn't it? Right, so if you see here, so you can see here how they've cut into the arch basically to put a manual access here, concrete bit, but it just gives you an insight into what we're sort of walking in. So 2 bricks thick, I thought it would have been thicker than that. 2 bricks thick, as you can see, and then like a brick square around it in a way, really, isn't it? But that's quite interesting, that, and interesting the way they've just literally chopped in. That's good. Right, so where are we? This is a very special place. This is Higher Cambridge Street, and the Cornbrook bisects this street at a point along its length. It's also special for another reason. The cover to the book, The Lost Rivers of Manchester by Jeff Ashworth. I've looked at that book many times, and I've seen that picture that I'm probably showing you now, and I've wondered where it was. Well, it was underneath here, underneath Higher Cambridge Street in the Cornbrook. And I think the title for the photo, if you look in the book, it says City Inspectors come below ground and inspect the tunnel of the Cornbrook. And like I say, it's a privilege to be here. And where we are below ground now, you've probably seen, you could probably match up the brickwork where we are now with the cover of the book, even though the cover of the book is, I think it's a black and white picture. So it's, like I say, for me personally, it's a bit of a privilege to be here. For Roy, it's always a privilege to be here, because we've kind of like known that book for a long time. So Higher Cambridge Street, and this is the location of the cover of the book. Okay, so one of the last maps I'm going to show you. This is an 1853 cholera map of Manchester. It's a slightly different orientation to what we've been looking at, but it is the area that we're in at the moment. The grey areas obviously are the cholera outbreaks, and you can see the Cornbrook there running by the red X and just by the 1853. It's portrayed as a black line, and already you can see it's called the Cornbrook or the Black Brook, so I presume it's earning a reputation now of being absolutely filthy. However, it does meet with a Black Brook further upstream. No prizes for guessing why that cholera outbreak is there and where those people were possibly getting the water from. So 1853 looks like the Cornbrook is probably by now absolutely filthy and responsible for spreading cholera. I'm not an epidemiologist, but that's my guess. Alright, concrete. Oh God. Is that it? Yeah. Right, so this bit now is all concrete. Right, so concrete, so you tell us. Horrendous concrete. And what it's doing is they've shoehorned the Cornbrook around these buildings. We're very much now, like I say, in university land. Loads and loads of new modern buildings. So as you can see around here, the Cornbrook has to deviate from its natural route, and it's in this concrete. It's heading how far?
1.5 kilometres.
1.5 kilometres now up towards Ardwick, as we've said. So I'll just show you that where we are, and you can understand now why it's in concrete and why it's going zig, 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 zig all over the place. You can see what they've done here is they've shoehorned it in, it snakes around, and they've shoehorned it in around the university buildings. Quite low, stoopy and horrible. So we're right underneath the universities now. So this goes on now, like this to Ardwick, is that right?
Ardwick, yeah.
All the way to Ardwick like this now. So it's quite uninteresting, So what we'll do is we're going to call this a day now for part 3. And we'll see you up there in Hardwick in part 4. Right, there you go. Cornbrook part 3. The long awaited Cornbrook part 3. Thanks guys. Couldn't have done it without you. Very stupid. Very stupid. We're gonna, part 4 will be over at Hardwick, near the Apollo and things like that. If you know that part of Manchester, we'll be over there and we'll carry it on and heading upstream continuously. Part 3, stupid. He's sweating like a bison. We had a brew. We've all probably got something by now, so you need to tell us in the comments all the diseases we've caught. Thanks very much for watching. We love you. Bye for now.
In a bit.